The Montreal Canadiens have a golden opportunity to strike right now with trade talks picking up across the NHL. We got Quinn Hughes, Steven Stamkos, all this stuff. There have been a few names that have recently been circulating around the Montreal Canadiens. One that Pierre LeBrun, NHL insider, recently brought up once again in Ryan O'Reilly, but there's also a lot of smoke about a former Hab currently playing out in LA and Phil Deneau. We got to dive into all of the latest rumors and why this is the perfect opportunity for Montreal to go out and strike and do something big. But there's big things happening within the team too, as Juraj Slafkovsky has been back on the first line, and the advanced metrics from that line, they will surprise you with how good they are. And we also got prospect updates on Alexander Zhuravsky and a very important one for Michael Xhekaj that I'm sure you've already seen, but we're going to break down some even more details on one Hab that didn't get invited. So much to get into here today, Jesse, but just want to welcome everyone and hit a like on this stream. The Habs, we're ready to do something big. Look, we got another 4-game week coming up, another Saturday, Sunday back-to-back. Trade rumors are going around every single day, and the energy is high, Jesse. I don't care that we're coming off a loss. We got to come back and strike. How are we feeling off this big week, starting with some great World Juniors news?
We're feeling great here, and again, it's all about playing good hockey for the Habs. We know a couple minutes, and it kind of got away from us, but Josh, what I was just most important about is playing good hockey. We know it's going to bounce around. It's going to come around. And that's what's got me excited about this upcoming week of hockey. And know what's got me excited, Josh, being here with all of our fine people here today. Obviously, we love seeing you here in the comment section. You know, grab a cup of Joe, grab your favorite beverage, come spend some time with us here today. So happy to be live with you all.
Absolutely. It's wonderful to see everyone here every day. We love to foster that community. Leave some comments. We're going to try to get to all of them. Channel members first, of course, and anyone else who's trying. We see the hype train here in the chat, the number 1, number 2 chatters. We got Ty, we got Yannick, Daniel, channel member with the Slafzilla emojis. Might as well play the animation for a second while we're at it. Hey, you can get those emojis too if you become a channel member, and priority responses. David Darcy, hello from Ireland. The Skyline, Slafkovsky, Dvorsky, Sharovsky, the Sky, Dvorsky. Well, we're getting into some crazy stuff here now, but you know what? You know what I'm excited about first? The line I'm excited about. Whatever line Michael Xhekaj is going to be on, because oh boy, finally, look, this is just the training camp roster for the World Juniors, but there's just going to be 3 cuts. From what I've seen, it seems like 1 forward, 1 defenseman, 1 goalie will get cut from this. But, Jesse, Michael Xhekaj has been inevitable this year. Now, we're going to get into a Hab that didn't get invited, and it does kind of suck a little bit that Owen Protz didn't jump from the Summer Showcase to this right here. I thought about him as well, but right now, Michael Xhekaj is the big story. The guy who has 28 points in 20 games as a sophomore in college. He's tied for the NCAA lead with 2 of his teammates, which is kind of crazy to look at, in total points, the co-leader in points in the NCAA. Last year, he seemed reserved to understand, look, I might never represent my team at the World Juniors, but it's happening. I mean, this is such incredible news, something we were hoping for dating back to last year, and you gotta think it's a dream come true for Michael Xhekaj himself.
All but guaranteed here to be on Team Canada. So happy. We know that they even could have used his help as of last year, but he's getting his opportunity this year. This is what matters. It's neither here nor there. Again, we know how good Michigan is being this year, and Josh, he's showing why he belongs with some of the best prospects in the world right now. And if we're looking at Team Canada, like the likes of Gavin McKenna, Mike and Misa, like that roster is stacked. Like I like Team USA, but looking at a roster, you know we're still a big believer in Team Canada over here at Habs Digest. Like again, he's like just so excited to see what he can really add to this roster, because we know what he's been doing like with Michigan all this year. Again, he can light up the lap himself, but he was also, you know, playing that playmaker once again this weekend. 2 points in 2 games. But again, as you mentioned, Michigan being so good, 3-way tie for the lead right now. These guys all have 28 points in 20 games. Again, being one of the best players in collegiate hockey, Josh. And it's looking like, okay, this guy's ready to go pro like really soon. And like, we're talking really soon. Like they just took their break for Christmas right now. He's just going to have a little bit more hockey. That season's going to finish up soon for him. There's a very real world where he's going to get some great opportunity playing with some of the best players in the world, Josh. And this is going to be a great opportunity for him to learn as he potentially gets an opportunity to play with the Habs as they come into the playoffs, Josh.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? Like, again, we talk about this a little bit, and when we're going to get into some of these trade talks later, we have to keep that in mind. Like, there is a world where Michael Xhekaj is good enough, he sustains good enough play, and shows enough that he gets a chance with the Habs down the stretch and even in the playoffs if we should make it. And it's looking like we have a decent chance, at least right now, at going all the way and making the playoffs. So yeah, you're right. That is a crazy thing. And hey, if you want Michael Xhekaj to not only make this World Junior team, which I'm sure he's going to, but to do well there and to play with the Habs, leave a like on this stream, guys. Every like pushes this out to other people to come in, chat with you, and it helps us out a ton. It is just one click, and if you don't want to, you don't have to. You really don't. You can even hit dislike if you don't like what we're saying, but hey, it helps us out a lot. Thank you for being here. We got a lot of people in chat already, Jesse. I want to get to one more thing with the World Juniors in just a moment, but people talking about the team, that's going to be a hot topic, right? Anyone but Veleno. Some people saying Texier looks pretty good. Dano is an old toy. Might be time to put Gallagher out to pasture, says channel member David Darcy. And so, there is going to be a lot of questions here as the season goes on with like guys who are performing up to par or maybe not performing up to par. But for now, I think what I will say before we just dive right back into the World Juniors, I love the passion that we're seeing from not only like ourselves for the team, but from the fans as to like, look, we're speaking our mind when it comes to this roster. And I can't help but think like Kent Hughes, Jeff Gorton, they're listening, but they're also seeing the same thing we're seeing. So it's why like these trade videos, as we're going to get into Dano and O'Reilly and a little bit more later, it's why stuff like this matters. And I think it's a really good chance for Montreal to do something, because I got to think, man, Kent's listening. Maybe some of the social media stuff's coming into their ears via Chantal Maccabe or something.
Well, Kent's always active, right? One of the hardest working GMs in the league. We got to stop the smack talk about Joe Veleno. No, I'm just joking, of course. I was maybe talking a little bit of smack prior to the show, right? You're almost wondering why he's, getting as much run. And again, like doing good things. Like he looks good on the ice. It's just like the points aren't producing, right? And like kind of the defense doesn't even look bad at certain moments. You got to feel bad for him that just for whatever reason doesn't seem to be also working here in Montreal. What could we really bring on? Because we see Tessier has been a tremendous add in a lot of ways to this team here. What could we possibly do here on that fourth line? But again, we know there's a lot of injuries. We might have some guys, coming back in the near future. We're really hoping from there. But obviously some trade draws can really kind of trade that, kind of change this up very quickly and what our depth is looking like there.
Yeah, well, and we'll get into that again in a bit, but I love to see all these chats about it. I see, is Kapanen our new Eller? Hey, that could be interesting. I'm actually seeing some people say to trade Kapanen just based off the high market for centers right now. I don't know if I agree, but one little thing I want to get into here is, not this, it's this. But ils sont où les gars de chez nous, man? There's one Québécois player here at all, and it's Caleb Desnoyers, who's incredible, playing for Moncton of the QMJHL, LHJMQ. But that's the only Québécois player. Just thought I'd point that out. I'm sure there's a lot of Québécois in the chat. Like, what happened, man? Like, I want to see some more. Look, we had Joshua Roy there with Connor Bedard, and that was awesome to see. But yeah, that's a little thing. But I did see one chatter earlier, Jesse, and I didn't want to read it until now. But boy, I feel like Bryce Pickford kind of got snubbed. I don't know. It's hard to say snub when you look at how stacked Canada's roster does look. Like, we got some great players here, man. But Bryce Pickford, he's probably going to be the subject of his own video at some point soon. If you guys have not been keeping up with this guy, he's a defenseman who has equaled his goal total from last year in just 28 games this year. He has 20 goals in 28 games. He is second in the WHL in total goals, and he is a defenseman. He's not just second among defensemen, he's second among all players. He's the only defenseman, I think, in the top 15 in goals. He has 20 goals. I mean, look, this kind of production. He's 19 as well. He's a more mature body. He has more experience. I don't know, Jesse. It's hard to say that there are snubs. Like, and I think Team Canada is going to be great. But, man, do I just wish we had some more representation for our boys.
No, that's for sure. And again, with Bryce Pickford, shout out to him. 8 points over his last 3 games here. Again, just playing some phenomenal hockey. Obviously, Team Canada, we know is stacked. But, like, he's producing a type of clip right now, Josh, that, like, you just always see from every player that ends up being, like, an impact guy at the NHL level. That's what they're doing. And we're not saying that that's kind of a given here. But again, he's doing exactly what's being asked for him right now. Can it carry over to that next, stage of his progression? That will really be it, Josh. Just one thing, though, that we're going to know, that clapper that he's got from the point, that's still going to be scoring goals at the AHL level. The big question is like the way he's proven right, like playing right now, and why he does deserve his own video, and why we got to keep a close eye on this is, again, like this is the type of production that we see guys that come into the NHL and really make some things happen. So you're right to kind of bring out of like, maybe did he have a chance or deserve it to maybe make Team Canada here? Again, we're going to have an eye on him. That's our job over here. We're going to show our prospects love because, I mean, he's just one of many guys right now. We're going to get into a couple more in just a second, like our prospects that just continue to take off and just really like exceed all expectations.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool to see how he progresses, because I think like it's safe to say we had some reasonable hopes for this guy, but I don't think we could have possibly predicted this. Like, we're like, yeah, he was an overager when we drafted him, of course, right, in the 3rd round, but it's turning into an insane pick. 20 goals. Like, his shot is ridiculous, right? And I know there's some, like, power play production, all this stuff, but this kind of production is just, it's nuts. Like, I don't care. I don't care if you're an overager. If you ever do this kind of stuff in the WHL, it's worth noting. He's over a point per game. 20 goals in 28 games, absolutely bananas. So, yeah, leave your thoughts on Team Canada's roster. We do have just Michael Hage as a representative of the Montreal Canadiens representative, and I'm sure he'll make the team. I don't anticipate he'll be cut. This dude is one of the best players in college hockey. He's going to project to be an NHLer, like you said, Jesse, as soon as this year. But if you want to stay on players that are projecting to be NHLers as soon as this year, we actually got a lot of people here. Owen Bell saying deepest draft in a long time, apparently. Look, coming up in 2026 is going to be good too, but hey, the Habs without a first-round pick, we did pretty good in the 2025 draft with Pickford, but also Alexander Zhuravsky, because, you know, it wouldn't be a video or a stream without a little update. Guess who was named Rookie of the Week again? He's averaging 15 and a half minutes time on ice, Jesse. It's just climbing as the days and weeks are going by. He had 4 assists and 5 points in just 4 games, taking sole possession of first on his team in points, despite playing fewer games than other guys on his team. 23 points in 26 games, only 12 penalty minutes, which is pretty good for a young player. He's a +3. You can see second place on his team is -13. Good plus minus. The point production's there. He's a KHL All-Star, multi-time KHL Rookie of the Week. This guy, I don't know. It feels crazy to me that, like, yeah, we had to give up first-round picks for Dobson, but, this is the guy that we would have drafted and got anyway. Pretty much by every metric, this guy is projecting to be an impact NHLer. I know the production's coming on the power play, but every day it just gets better, and I just feel like it reminds me a whole lot of a certain Russian that we talked a lot about last year.
After a while, it just needs to mean something considerable for his NHL career and what Alexander Zhuravsky is capable of. These numbers that we see that continually get to put out. We saw that Grant McCaig tweeted earlier today that, you know, he's at 3.73 points per game over 60 minutes, which is, again, ranking top 5 in the entire KHL, Josh, which leads us to think, like, that Alexander Zhuravsky isn't just one of the best rookies in the KHL. This guy is one of the best players, given the ice time that he has right now. And you got to feel like this, like the size, is this going to continue to serve him well? And for sure, there's other parts of his game that need to be rounded out. And that's just normal part of the course for like a really offensively talented forward. Again, they want to bring it on the 5v5. He's just really good on the power play. Why? He just gets a lot of practice on there all the time, right? So as he gets used to other parts of his game and being used there as well, I see him having just so many tools to really be able to benefit the Montreal Canadiens going forward. Josh, like, I'm just blown away by, again, just continually the output that we see from this player. Again, just getting like these impact players again as we get even more competitive just gives us a longer chance of really, once we become very competitive again, of really and truly staying there.
Yeah, and like we look at Hage, we look at Zhuravsky, we look at guys like Pickford, and you know, I look at teams, and the team I always go back to is a team like Dallas, right? Who had some young guys come up through their system, like Jason Robertson, like Wyatt Johnston, and kind of produced pretty early and then turned into like stars pretty soon after. But they still had that veteran talent around them, like Tyler Seguin, like Jamie Benn, and now like Mikko Rantanen on the other side. And so when you're Montreal, like we're kind of shaping up to be a little like that, but even a little bit younger, right? With just the sheer amount of talent coming up, it allows us to be flexible in not only moving some of our young prospect talent, because they're going to be huge trade pieces if we ever want to move them. Again, I'm not advocating for that. I don't want to trade Hage. I don't want to trade Zhuravsky, but ultimately, if like some home run deal comes to the table for like a superstar, you never know. Like these are the kind of guys that could get moved. And so, but it gives you flexibility, right? They also come into the lineup. It doesn't force you to go out and make big signings to fill holes. When you have a guy like Hage or Zhuravsky, these high skill guys, a guy like Pickford, who's a scoring defenseman, a guy like David Reinbacher, who is still producing at a pretty high level in Laval, like these kind of guys make it a lot easier down the line to make decisions. And so when I'm looking at this team, Jesse, and I look at the guys that could potentially come onto the roster in the next few years, barring a trade like Engstrom, like Reinbacher, like Fowler, like Hage, like Zhuravsky in a couple of years, I just look and I'm like, you know, again, something's got to give, someone's got to get moved, but it's going to make the whole process maybe more stressful to make that decision making, but ultimately it's going to make it a lot easier to construct a contending roster when you have so many backup plans just waiting to, you know, take them out of the back pocket and put them on the ice.
a winning roster because Alexander Zborowski is clearly a winner. And while we want to still improve our defensive play of allowing less goals against, and that's a theme going back to last year, Josh, again, like we still want a little bit of more offensive firepower, right? Like we can understand that. Like let us know in the comment section if like you still feel like that's needed, right? Like I think even with guys like Xhekaj and Zborowski, it's kind of filling in like exactly what we need without like almost kind of too much, because then you have to start kind of trading some prospects. Like exactly what we need without kind of too much overlap here going on right now, just for like a really well-constructed roster here going in. I think it's just very much needed again on that second line, that influx of talent. Like I love Kapanen, I love Texier, but just imagine Demidov with like the likes of like, you know, Xhekaj after he's played like 2 years in the NHL. Like that's bringing out another element of Demidov. Mm-hmm. And then you then throw Zborowski into the chat, right? And then again, how that kind of, you know, both elevates Demidov's play, how it allows Zborowski to learn so much quicker as well. I think just had such a big effect just throughout this lineup. Like, just how can we get like talented Demidov as quickly as possible, Josh? Like, that's what I'm concerned about. So about this fire, you want to feed it because again, it's just going to have effects not just now, but really years going forward for this team.
Yeah, 100%. Like, however we can best utilize him. Like, that's going to be a big goal of this team, right? Exactly what you're saying. Like, how can we maximize our young star player? And we have options to do it. And, you know, I do see some very interesting chats to bring it up. We need a veteran or two on this team that has no leaders who have been to war. Veterans can be picked up at the trade deadline. You know, veterans can matter too, but someone, you know, also we got Gallagher and Anderson who are veterans, but then we have Matt say Gallagher and Anderson are eating 12 million, right? And so there's a lot of people bouncing back and forth about what's going to be good for this team or not. But I liked one thing there in the chat. It said, like, trading unknowns for known commodities is often a very good choice. And, you know, it can be, right? But it's also scary, right? You know, for everyone that works out, there's a handful of, well, I should say maybe for everyone that doesn't work out, like, you know, Ryan McDonough or like, I don't want to get into some of these other ones, Xhekaj. For every one of those that doesn't work out, there's a handful of examples that do work. But anyway, that's maybe a discussion for the future, but maybe the future of this video when we get more into Ryan O'Reilly and what we heard about his trade package. But yeah, I think you're right, Jesse. I think building a roster, competitive roster, is something that's really going to come easy, hopefully, to Montreal. So I'm excited to see how Kent does this. But for now, there's some other stuff going on with Marty and how he's built the team. And when we're talking about known commodities, one thing has been the Slafkovsky, Suzuki, Caufield line. It's a line that's been great for the last couple of years. It's a line that, when they've been together, have been elite. This year, of all either forward lines or defensive pairings, doesn't matter, any combo of forward, like a forward trio or a D pairing in the entire NHL that has played at least 200 minutes together, so there's only 5 forward lines that have done it, but a lot more D pairings. Slafkovsky, Suzuki, Caufield, of all the most used lines in the NHL, they rank second behind only Simon Edvinsson and Mo Seider of Detroit in expected goals percentage. Of all forward lines, they're number 1. And if you even put this filter down to forward lines who have played 100 minutes together, a much lower qualifier, they're still 8th. And I'm curious about this, and I'm curious with the fans as well. I think we'll put up a poll here. Right now, with Juraj Slafkovsky's play on the first line, are we happy with the decision that Slav is back on the first line? Because again, you look at these advanced metrics, the last couple games, there have been some ups and downs when they've been in there, like, you know, sometimes high expected goals, sometimes not. But at this point, Jesse, looking at Montreal and what we have and the ability to have a genuine star line, even when, like, you know, it feels like Suzuki's not at 100%, whatever, he's still putting up points. Caufield on an 11-game point streak. Slav having, 7 points in his last 7 games, I think? He had 6 points in his last 5 games before. I don't know, something crazy like that. I think it was the right decision to have at least one line that dominates the play. Do you think now in hindsight it was a good idea to run him with Demidov, or do you think like maybe we should have just kept this first line the whole time?
I think because of the injuries, it was a needed exercise. But Juraj Slafkovsky really passed the test, where he was able to take more of a leadership role. But then the question was, could he then translate that when he was on the first line and still be able to handle the puck in the way that he's doing and be that dominant player on the ice? And that answer has been yes so far, which hasn't been a given. And for me, is a huge sign of evolution, which, Josh, I think we have to know is kind of normal. Again, only 21 years of age. A lot of players, it's only at like 22 plus where they really start coming into their own anyway, especially with a bigger guy like Slav. Like, especially 23, especially, like, that's where you're going to start seeing him, 24, really, really coming out. But it started right now, and we don't want to wait because we know Juraj Slafkovsky's got big plans for himself right now, and he's, again, gotten 7 points over his last 7 games. I've mentioned in post-game recaps of him looking like the best player on the ice. Other people have went out and kind of mentioned, similar things. I'm happy to see how other people are also feeling like Slaf. Like, it's not just me alone here. Like, that Slaf is being the most dominant player on the ice, which is just so fantastic for this team in so many ways, and his size. And again, just giving a couple of different angles, maybe with Nick Suzuki being injured and taking a little bit more of a leadership role, and for once, maybe taking a little bit of slack off his end. As we know, Nick Suzuki's been so gracious to do for so many teammates over the course of his career. Real soldier, of course, playing so much. So again, like, that's been what, Juraj Slafkovsky's been able to do right now. And that's going to be like the next question, though, is he's been able to do this over the last 7 games. Josh, can Juraj Slafkovsky in the chat, like, let us know, can he do this over the next 20 games? Can he keep it up? And I mean, there's recent data to show that he can. We know over the second half of the season, Slaf normally takes off here. So we just expect like these scoring totals, and in fact, like the, kind of his ratios of points per game to actually increase here going forward. But like, this would be incredible, Josh, like 20 games from now. If still on a Monday Night Live, like, we're saying that Juraj Slafkovsky's the most dominant forward on a Montreal Canadiens that's featuring the likes of Nick Suzuki, Caufield, even Ivan Demidov going forward, like, this is going to be an interesting storyline to watch, because it's not completely off the table. And quite frankly, Josh, I kind of, like, I want that.
Yeah. I want it too. And I think it's definitely something he can do, because again, when we were projecting, right? When we were looking back at younger Slaf and projecting, he can be that most dominant forward on the ice. He might never be a 70, 80 point player. I remember talking about this. Yeah, he can shore up his defensive game, use his body, and just be an impact force on a line that really helped. It's exactly what we wanted to see from him, is what he's doing now. And 79% of you who voted said you're happy with him being back on the first line. And now he's on like about a 26, 27 goal pace, like just above 50 point pace as well. I'm actually really, really happy with what I've seen from Juraj Slafkovsky recently. He's looked, like you said, for large stretches, the most dominant player on the ice for the Habs. And there's a reason why that first line just looks so good when he's out there. He's winning board battles like no man's business. It's absolutely incredible. And we have a super chat from Daniel SK. Daniel, such a generous donor here to the chat. Give some love for Daniel in the chat. I already see Bob replying to it, saying 100%. Leave some likes for Daniel. Thank you so much, Daniel, saying, I was hoping Slav could bring his game from the second line back to the first line. I know, Jesse, you mentioned that a number of times as well, which I think was very spot on. And safe to say, he did. That trip to the second line really helped him. And also, shout out to Mark, or another channel member that I see there. Shout out to you, Mark. Keep the faith, go Habs, go. Absolutely. I mean, Jesse, I got to give you credit for that too. And I think it was a great example that you said, and Daniel saying it now. This is exactly what we wanted to see on the second line. Yeah, the second line stint was solid. Again, the advanced metrics actually don't really paint much of a great picture in terms of expected goals and actual goals for and against when Slaf was on that line, but we saw how he worked with more skilled players. But it does feel like ever since Mr. Slafkovsky came back to play with Cole Caufield and Nick Suzuki, by the way, Caufield's only 1 point behind Suzuki now. Isn't that kind of crazy? Yeah, that's kind of crazy. But ever since he came back, it feels like he's driving the play more. He is not afraid to skate the puck into the zone on his own. I feel like even just over the past couple weeks, it absolutely was a necessary exercise, like Daniel said, because he is so much more confident in his decision making, and it's making everyone else better. Have you seen some of these passes he's tried to the power play? It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, right now, it's just kind of about getting back to that for them here, because a lot of this winning, before losing last night, were on a 2-game win streak, and a lot of this is about getting these guys here back together. And again, Demidov and Kaiden still keeping that chemistry together and getting that support from down the roster. Again, next man up type mentality. I think Tessier is interesting to note as well. Very helpful again, where they're kind of doing their job on that second line. That's helping that first line as well. But so happy to see them reunited. Of course, like once we start getting guys back, fully healthy, and of course, maybe an addition or two from some trades. Obviously, I'm just so anxious, Josh, to see like what this team is really going to look like here, because we know we have that depth, but just a couple key moves, how that really kind of affects things here going forward, I think is huge. But again, for Slaf, we know what the secret is for him to really stay here. We know like his mantra coming into the season was he's got to play that physical hockey. Obviously, as we know, winning those board battles, getting in front of the net, but still becoming that shooting option. I'm loving, we're seeing that evolution where he can be front of the net, but then he's also going to present that option kind of back door. And that's been working really well on the power play. He has been absolutely phenomenal there this year. Again, being that goal scorer, being that difference maker So we just want to see that really continue. Have to feel him back on the first line. He's just going to get every opportunity to be able to do so.
And I'm excited. Yeah, he's taking shots a lot more. It's incredible. I see some interesting chats. Toronto has Knies. We have Slafkovsky. And I think, again, Knies is doing great. I still stand by our take, Jesse, that Slav will be better, more impactful to winning hockey. And it seems like Montreal is going to be a better environment for that. Sorry to keep rubbing it into Toronto fans' face. I'm just excited about that. And Vegan Zoom, I'm not even going to try Zombies. I think he can get 60 plus points. Yeah, why not? But there's some good points here too. And I think you alluded to that as well. Like with Texier playing well in the second line, finding a good fit there, there's no need to put Slaf back there. That second line's kind of rolling. Kaiden and Demidov developing more chemistry. Texier bringing some skill and some effort. It's really, really cool. So yeah, leave your thoughts on Slaf. We're going to end that second poll there now, asking, look, more people believe that this dominance is sustainable than people that were happy that he's back on the first line, which is interesting. And I think it just goes to show that a lot of people are coming around on Slafkovsky turning into a driving force on a line, which is crazy because right now, objectively, he's the third guy on this line in terms of scoring power, but you could very well argue he drives a lot of the play by keeping plays alive, keeping pucks out of his own end, right? The defensive stats when he's on the ice are kind of crazy because of how long he can prolong offensive possession. So really, really cool stuff there. But the final thing we got to get to here today, Jesse, though, is trade talks. And I'm excited for this part. And look, leave a like if you guys want Montreal to make a trade. If you like this stream, Montreal's probably going to make a trade. I'm just saying, like, I don't know, when you guys like the stream, it just does weird things. Kent Hughes hears you. But I want to start here. And look, Phil Deneau is an interesting name. I'm just gonna preface this by saying I don't think this makes sense. I love Phil Deneau, and I know, Jesse, you got your opinions as well. I want to hear your thoughts. Maybe I'll put up a poll as well. Anyway, just on the Phil Deneau front, Elliot Friedman today said he thinks both sides want something new. Quote, the fact this got out says to me that I think the player on some level would welcome it too. Talking about Deneau wanting a trade away from LA. Of course, Frank Saravalli said the trade chatter's picking up around Phil Deneau just a couple days ago. Multiple teams have inquired with LA on his availability. He's emerged as a target among a thin center market. And guess what Montreal needs? We do need a center. My problem with this, Jesse, is as much as I love Phil Deneau for everything he's done for the Montreal Canadiens, and I agree, he would be a way better fit than Joe Veleno right now. Like, if you just took Veleno out of the lineup and you put in Phil Deneau, despite Deneau's offensive numbers not looking great, his underlying numbers look great, I would be so happy. The problem is, where is he? Where do we put him? Right? Like, where do we put him once the healthy guys are back? Once Laine, Newhook, and Dach are all back, and then if you also add Deneau, you have no room then later in the season moving into the playoffs unless you make other big moves, moving out some forwards and kind of completely overhauling your forward lines. I love the theoretical idea of Phil Deneau. I just don't see how it could be done in practice, but I'd love to see what the fans think.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like a step forward for the Montreal Canadiens. Even though we like Filip Deneau was obviously a treasured member of the Montreal Canadiens for years, this doesn't seem to be quite what we need, especially when we know getting Newhook and Dach back, and especially with all the prospects that we have that we feel can fit more of like that bottom six. Like if it's not a top six role that we're bringing in a center, I don't quite see the fit right now here. Again, only 0 goals so far this season, only 5 points. 43 points last year. Again, not quite the production I'm looking for. But again, only 8 of those, he had only 8 goals right out of those 43 points last year. So not being quite like what we would need really from that 2C. And otherwise, I feel like we got guys for those spots here going forward here. So again, obviously we wish him the best. Obviously was a big fan of him for many years with the Montreal Canadiens here. But yeah, probably just not what we're looking for at this present time.
Yeah, and like, in an ideal world, like in my mind, Phil Deneau is a fantastic bottom 6 option, right? And he was actually asked to do more than that when he was in Montreal. He was our 1C for a while. And like, again, if I, in a vacuum, take out Veleno, insert Deneau, great. But when Newhook is back way later, and when Kirby Dach is back, maybe he ends up playing center, Kapanen and Evans, like, unless they keep Kapanen as the 2C, whatever, you put Newhook, Dach, or Kapanen as the 3C, whatever, and Evans is the 4C, like, where do you put Deneau, right? Like, it feels like one of those things where, in a thin center market, your teams are going to want to overpay for centers. And to me, overpaying relative to what the market would maybe usually command for a guy like this doesn't actually really move the needle because the Habs defense has been decent. Yeah, we've had some breakdowns, but it's been a little bit on our defensemen. So I like Phil Deneau, but I just don't think it makes sense. Can you do not saying good morning? Well, good morning to you. Great to see you as always. I really like Deneau, says Jeremy. Maybe space can be made in a transaction to get him. Well, maybe, but again, having to make space for a guy that has 5 points is like, like, what are we doing? He's a winning player for sure. Mark Orr saying we need another Slaf to play with Cappy and Demidov like a Jordan Kyrou. Well, Kyrou's a little less physical, that's for sure. He's definitely a goal-scoring option, but I want some guys that can win some puck battles. A big guy. Give me Mikko Rantanen. No, but someone maybe similar to that. Hage is great, says user. I don't know what your username is because it just says user, but yeah, I think we'll end that poll there on Phil Deneau because it's an interesting conversation piece, but there's not much to be said. Phil Deneau is, his time on Montreal has come and gone, and right now, with the way the team is looking, with our injuries, guys coming back, I don't know about it, and 79% of people said, yeah, no, I don't think you want him either, but he's not the only name, Jesse, and look, I know we keep bringing him up, but you know why we keep bringing him up? It's because insiders keep bringing him up. Pierre LeBrun, you knew he was lighting this fire, talking with Tony Marinaro a few days ago, saying Ryan O'Reilly would fit what Montreal needs for sure. I don't know what the price that Barry Trotz has put out there, or if it fits anyone's desires right now, but look, this was a few days ago, and since that, we have gotten the reported price for Ryan O'Reilly. It's reportedly a first-round pick and a good prospect. Now, the question is whether teams, again, would bite at that. Whether Nashville's in a rush to make a move like this, that's up to them. They're really struggling this year. All their top guys, except maybe O'Reilly, are struggling. But O'Reilly's on a very decent contract, and it's very fair for any contending team to be like, I would like him. I will pay a lot for him. Look at what Brock Nelson went for last year. A first-round pick, and Cal Ritchie, who's doing some incredible stuff right now with the Islanders, right? So you wonder if a guy like a Michael Hage or something would be the asking price from Nashville, in which case, I don't know. But Jesse, I mean, the fire keeps getting stoked, and we can't ignore it because this is one of the dream targets out there.
For sure, and I love that Pierre LeBrun is bringing up this target here. At 34 years old, you can't feel like there's a ton of hockey left for Ryan O'Reilly, but that's perfect. Like, for me, that's an ideal situation where you're bringing in somebody who's going to help this team right away in the top six, think the playoffs and what that can really do. And again, it's somebody who's helping Demidov right away and Kapanen, who's played valiantly, to his credit here. But I think, kind of putting him in the right spot is probably a good move long-term for Kapanen's development. Not saying that he couldn't become that 2C, which is phenomenal, right? But just not quite yet. I think bringing somebody like this into the lineup is really huge. And again, where he's able to kind of mentor now a Michael Hage when he's coming in. I think that's maybe like an underwritten factor really in all of this here to consider. And yes, Oliver Kapanen, we're not forgetting about him with all his great play so far this year. Again, through Demidov, obviously by proxy as well, is obviously going to be some great mentorship for him there. I would say just getting that veteran presence because, yes, we saw in the comments, we have Evans, we have Gallagher as vets on this team, and Nick Suzuki's kind of getting there. But I think within your top six, again, there's something to be said about having a vet that that you can rely on night in, night out, that's been there before in the playoffs and doesn't need to be taking the roof off the building, but getting points, making winning plays, how that, kind of creates that confidence in the team where they just know, yeah, this isn't, Ryan O'Reilly's first rodeo. He's probably going to be able to get us a point here in this game when it really matters. How that kind of just takes pressure off the team, especially for a young goaltender, young defense like we have with the Montreal Canadiens. I think it's just so beneficial. And again, kind of making a smoother transition for kind of that changing in the guard as we see Michael Hage, Alexander Zborowski coming onto this team and maybe challenging at that 2C role.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And you have to wonder too. I always say that veteran leadership and mentorship, that kind of stuff is worth something in terms of a salary, right? That is absolutely worth some kind of monetary value, but something that's a lot harder for us to see, right? We don't see the behind the scenes. You can only see the product of what it is. And so when you bring in a guy like O'Reilly, again, at a $4.5 million contract, whatever, I would say a good, you made a great point. If he was able to come in, mentor Michael Hage, something like that, that would be worth so much, let alone the on-ice production. It would always be worth it. His face-offs are great. His defense is great. He's going to put up points. He's going to show your guys how to win. It is so valuable. So I love the idea of him coming into this team. And I think a lot of people in the chat do too. Though some people are saying they don't mind Phil Deneau. It was cool eating pizza on Saint Jean Baptiste, but it's over for Deneau. But also user, I don't know what the username is. Channel member, so thank you. But it's hard. I don't know. YouTube changed all the two handles. Depending on the cause for Philly D, I would. He has 2 years left on his current deal. Could be a good stopgap. Now, interesting. Daniel saying that second line needs a veteran. Everyone would benefit. And maybe that'll be sort of the last topic here. And I do see a lot of people in chat still saying Kyrou, Jesse, because the Blues are open for business. Now, recent reports have indicated that I think it's now Snuggerud, Holloway, and Thomas that are sort of seen as the three maybe untouchables. I haven't heard Parayko's name as of late. It's getting weird there. But Kyrou still seems to be one of those names that's out there. I don't know if he fits as like a veteran. Like, yeah, he kind of is. He's not a kid anymore. He's not like 20 years old, but he's in his mid-late 20s, and he could be good. But, I mean, look, as much as we say we need a veteran here, we still have guys on the shelf. And right, I wonder, Jesse, how is Kent Hughes going to manage that? Like, how do you look at this team, how we're producing in this tight Atlantic division? There's pressure to make a move, but you have impact players, 3 of them on the shelf right now. How do you make moves without compromising a lot of the guys on the team now and almost pushing them out of a roster spot? So I think that's going to be one of the more challenging aspects to explore down the line.
Yeah, I think that's balanced by the fact that we do have some prospects, which I think we do need to make some moves on at a certain point here for this team. I think that the play going forward is a center that can definitely at least be producing around that kind of that 55 to 65 point sort of mark. Or the other alternative is that you're getting a winger that's going to produce much more than that. And that's the only way that you're okay with that. Say, okay, we didn't get quite our center. We know that the market's thin for that. And that becomes more and more of a reality every single day as we just see so many teams are looking for a 2C. Maybe as we're waiting for Xhekaj to kind of come in. Obviously here is like, I think it's a very distinct possibility that they do look for a winger. But again, with the caveat is that the offense really needs to be there to kind of justify doing that type of move.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be fun to look at it, though. And we're making calls. We've heard that we've kicked tires on Sherwood or whatever. I'm sure Kent has talked to St. Louis. They have a trading relationship. We have a trading relationship with Nashville, just like we did last year, Carrier and Barron. There's a lot of teams around the league. Like, I don't know, we have a relationship with New Jersey. I don't think they have anything we want. They're probably going to go get Quinn Hughes, them or the Detroit Red Wings, which is just a crazy thing that's happening. Like, thank goodness that's not going to happen to us. At least, like right now we got all our guys locked up long term. Can you imagine if we were going to deal with some like Lane Hutson restricted free agency stuff? I'd be stressed out. We got him locked up for less than $9 million. So I'm really excited for the future here. Hello to Ethan coming in right here near the end. Daniel saying hello. Wave and Mark Orr saying, why haven't the Habs tried Bolduc with Cappy and Demi? They were willing to try him on the top line. Actually, that's maybe a good final question. I think it's interesting for Bolduc. Marty clearly put him in the doghouse for something. Bumped him off the PP1. Bumped him to the 4th line. But he had a great game last game. Would it shock you at all, Jesse, to see Bolduc get some run to the second line? I think Texier's look pretty good right now, though, and I think Marty's all about rewarding the guys that have gotten good results on the ice.
I love Zachary Bolduc, but taking a bad penalty in last night's game. He's going to have to get himself out of the doghouse, not out of the realm of the possibility right now. That we're going to hope for him to bounce back, start getting those goals once again.
100%. I'm excited for that. The Rick Roller. I hope your comments are Rick Roll, too. I would rather trade for Dvorak than to Noah O'Reilly. I don't know about that one. Look, Devo is having a decent year, but I think I'd rather O'Reilly over everything. But listen, thank you guys for your input on all this stuff. There's going to be some crazy stuff coming from Montreal, and hey, if you can do anything, if you want to see stuff like this every day, make sure you hit that like button, and also subscribe. That's also completely free because we're here doing live streams every single Monday night. We got videos every single day. Got a big week this week. You want to see what's going on? Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you for tuning in, Jesse. Any parting thoughts? I think this is going to be a big week for the Montreal Canadiens. Another Saturday, Sunday back-to-back, and I think this is the chance where we really make our mark and try to push for first in the Atlantic.
Absolutely exciting week of hockey upcoming here. And, as my mama said, the proof's always in the pudding. I invite you to consider that if you've been watching our videos for the last 3 months, 6 months, if you've been rocking with us for more than a year and you haven't hit that subscribe button, that proof's in the pudding. You've been rocking with us for that long. We've given you that 1% of value here today. Hit that subscribe button. So happy to have you guys here with us, and thank you all for the support.
Thank you so much. As always, tune in every single day for new episodes. So much coming up very, very soon. I'm Josh Gosse, my coach, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch y'all in the next one.